Hi, my name is Matt, and I want to make the player character from Terraria. But not just that, I also want to give him these starting tools. See? So to start, I get all of the colors that I think I'm going to need throughout this, and I start by making the center shirt color, which is a dark gray. Then I make his sleeve colors, which is a lightish blue. After that, I make his pants color, which is a light tan. And then, after that's done, I start making the armature out of paper clips and aluminum foil. So, first I straighten some paper clips in order to just have some wire. Then I do it to the same scale as a Minecraft Steve amiibo, and I just copy down the amiibo's proportions. So you get one curve at the leg joint, then the body, and then the head, it gets bent over. Then, after that, it gets copied over into two, and the arms, after that, get cut down to get sized properly, and then cut down to the proper size. So, once it's cut into the proper size, and both of them are properly sized, then they need to be connected in the middle. The way that I usually connect these is with aluminum foil. I bend these over on itself several times until it's the same width as the body size. Then I wrap it around until the body is properly connected, usually both vertically and horizontally. Once the armature is complete, I cover the body section in a base layer of the dark gray in order to make sure that it doesn't move around or wiggle. After that, I bake it in order to set the armature into place, and then after that, I make its pose. For the pose, I bent it at its knees and also gave it some cool arm thing or something. So, once you're done making the pose, I covered the bottom half in the light tan in order to start working on the pants. Then, once the bottom section was covered, I split it in half where I could, and then I just gave it the cylinders that the leg requires. After that, I made sure that they were the correct thickness, and I made sure to put bends at the knees to make sure that I knew where the knees were, and I made sure that the bottoms were at the correct location. Then, after that, I gave him his shoes, which are just basically brown ovals that are just placed on the bottom. After this, I got two little balls of clay and placed it right at the knees in order to give him his kneecaps. These then get blended into the body in order to make it so that it doesn't look like his kneecaps are on top of his pants. After this, I give the Terrarian a small bulge. When I say I don't know. And after that, I give him some glutes. These also get blended in because otherwise it would just look weird. So now that that's done, I get two balls and put it on the backside in order to raise that area up a little. After this, I make a worm of the light tan clay in order to give the pants some wrinkles. So I just place those where I think that wrinkles should go, and then I blend them in so that they look like wrinkles. After this, I just do it over and over until the entire leg is covered in what I would call as reasonable looking wrinkles. I start up on the top part of the pants, and then I worked my way down each leg, and then I worked on the back. So these just get placed all over and then blended in after they're all placed. So once all of these are blended in, especially on the back, the pants are done, and it is time for them to, it's time for the bottom of the pants to get put on there. I place a thicker worm around the bottom of the pants where the pants meet the shoes, and then I flatten it slightly. This flattening is done with one of my tools, and I just roll it along on there until it looks proper. After that, the pants get baked, and the light gray gets put on the upper body, and the pants get sectioned off where I think that they should get sectioned off. Once the entire upper torso is covered in that clay, with a large ball stylus, I push all of the material downwards so that it looks like it's actually covering it and not weird just sitting on top. So after that is done, it's time to get the arms covered up, and once the arms are covered, they get their wrinkles. I start with the armpit wrinkles, which gets 2 worms on either side, and then I get 1 wrinkle where the elbow creases. These all get blended in and made to look like wrinkles. After that, I just poke and prod it with one of my tools in order to make it look more bendy and in movement. And after the arms are done, it's time to work on the hands. So, in order to make the hands, I need a skin tone. So I just make a skin tone with a bunch of different flesh colors that I have. This one being slightly reddish to match the Terrarian's actual skin tone. And then these get made into 2 smaller balls. And since I'm not good at making hands, and even though this is a very somewhat realistic looking project, I just decided to make the hands look like mittens. This mitten then gets curled up into a fist and placed outward while resting on the body. The second mitten is made in a similar way, just with the thumb facing in the opposite direction, but this is not made into a fist. Instead, it is holding a paperclip. Then I give the Terrarian some abs, and I blend it into the shirt, as well as a bunch of wrinkles on the front part. Not the back part yet, I do that after this gets baked. So, once that hand is put on there, it gets baked, and then, after it's baked, I start working on the back. So, now that this is done, I work on making the wrinkles on the back part of the shirt. And once the wrinkles on the back part of the shirt are done, I work on the top part of the shirt. I put 2 things here. This is unnecessary since they just get covered up anyways. But I put a little piece of flesh color on the top in order to make the part where his upper body gets connected to his head and the neck. So now that that's there, I make the head. I just roll up a ball, and then out of that ball, I roll a thinner tube out of it, and then I blend that into the base of the head thing. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, you get the point. After this is smoothed on there, it is time for the shoulders. Since the shoulders were not those shoulders were a bit lower than the neck, I raised them up slightly, and then I baked 2 white circles for the eyes, which I then placed into the head. After those got placed into the head, I put a little slightly thick worm in between the two to act as somewhat of the bridge of the nose, and then with smaller worms, I put them around the eyes in order to give it, I guess, eyelids. Or just make it look like the eyes were actually inside of the head and not just pushed in there 3 seconds ago. After they're put on there, they're all blended in so that the head looks flat. And then the top part of the head, or the forehead, gets a little ball or flattened thing on top of it in order to make it look good. This also gets blended into the head. And then a ball is put under the two eyes in order to give it its nose. These are all blended in, and then it's time to make the mouth. This gets carved in using a thin tool that I have and turned into a slight smile. After this smile is put in there, then it's time to add the pupils, which are a darker gray than the shirt torso. After that, I get a reddish brown for the hair, which I put on as eyebrows. After that, the entire thing gets baked. After the eyebrows are on there, the entire thing gets baked, and it's time for the hair and ears. To start with the hair, I get a thin sheet of clay and place it on top of the head in order to get a rough outline of where the hair should be, and to make sure that everywhere that I want hair has at least something on there. After this is put on there, I put a patch of clay on the back, as well as a patch of clay on the top. These then get poked, prodded, pulled, and made into little points all over and pointed in various directions until I think it looks good as the hair. I don't really show this process, but for the hair, you can do whatever you want. Then I put 2 little balls on the side to thick out the hair since I felt that the head was a little too thin. These also get poked, prodded, and spiked until I feel that they are good enough. Then I put on the ears and the sideburns. The sideburns go around to cover the front part of the ears in order to make them look, I guess, slightly more natural. I don't really know. So, once that is placed right on there, it is time to make the weapons. So, now that the weapons are all started and this is what we're working on, I get some brown and cover a paper clip with it, except for a slight part of it where the hand holds the weapon. Then I get some darkish copper kind of color, and I turn one half of it into an axe head and the other into the little other ends. These both get attached to the center, blended in together to make it look like one piece, and then the front of the axe gets a little lighter orange copperish cover on the sharp part of it, or where it's supposed to be sharp, and then it gets a little bit beat up, since these are supposed to be old tools that you start with. Once this gets beat up, it's time to work on the next copper tool, the copper pickaxe. This gets the same treatment with the handle, with it being covered in brown clay, with one part of it being empty, like undone, in order to have the Terrarian actually be able to hold it. Then this gets 2 little worms with a point at the end that get onto the pickaxe and blended in on the center in order to make it look like a pickaxe, I guess. After both of these pieces are put on and made together, the tips of this are covered in the lighter clay in order to make it look sharper, I guess. I don't really know for this one. It just follows the design that's actually in the game. Then these get angled how they're supposed to be angled for a pickaxe, which is with the end slightly downwards. And then it is time for the final weapon, which is the sword. Well, the final tool, which is a sword. Then I start by putting the darker color on the bottom for the handle, and then putting the lighter color on top of it in order to make it look sharper. I don't know. That's just kind of what it's used to do. Then the top part gets flattened and put at a little point at the end, and then a worm of the darker color gets put in the middle of that on both sides, with the very top part not having that. This then gets blended in and roughed up because, again, these are older tools that I'm trying to make, or make it seem like they're older tools, so they are roughed up and bent and not in the best condition. Once this gets made, there's only one other thing that needs to be done. It's time for a base. I start with just some brown clay, the basic brown that I have, and I flatten it into a little half sphere that's mostly flat, but lower on the edges. Then, after I have this, I make some grass green. And this grass green then gets smacked on top of it and covering on the top. Then the Terrarian gets pushed into this and it is all baked. Now, as you can see, all of these weapons can fit into the hand. This also follows with some other ones that I've made, and it can also hold the beanades and most of the other Terraria weapons I made in the past. If you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and if you want to see something specific, comment what it is below. That's all for today.